Hello, church. Welcome back to our series, Rise Up, where we're looking through 1st and 2nd Samuel. Last week, we left off with kind of the beginning of a new stage in the book of 1st Samuel, where Saul has just had his first encounter with the prophet Samuel, and God has told Samuel that Saul is going to be the first king of Israel. Right after this, where we pick up now, chapter 10, Samuel anoints Saul king. They've just shared this important meal together, and Samuel gave him the portion of the meal that was reserved for the priest, kind of setting Saul up for this weird expectation. He doesn't know what's going on, but these lines are being blurred for some reason. He's being put in this position of honor that he doesn't deserve, and he doesn't quite understand what's happening. And then Samuel anoints him, and he says, "You are going to be the king of Israel." And Saul is just shocked. He can't believe it. He doesn't feel worthy. And so Samuel says, here's how you're going to know. You're going to find those donkeys that you were looking for. This is going to happen. He lists a bunch of different things that are about to happen, including Saul becoming a prophet and prophesying over people that day. All these things happen exactly as Samuel described them. And Saul goes home, and his family's asking, where were you? What was going on? And Saul says, I was looking for the donkeys, and I ran into Samuel. And they say, what did Samuel tell you? And he tells them some of it, but he hides the fact that he's going to be king. He can't quite accept that this is going to be his reality. And so then Samuel gathers all the people of Israel together. And he says, okay, people, you wanted a king. You rejected God as your king. You said, give us a human king. God's going to give you a human king. And so they start casting lots, which is how in this time one of the ways that they heard from God. And so they narrow it down to the right tribe, the right family. And they're looking around and they're going, wait, who is this lot coming up on? Who is supposed to be king? And suddenly God says, he's hiding over there by the baggage. And they look over and they see that Saul is hiding because he doesn't want to be crowned king. He's afraid. He's scared. He doesn't believe in himself. He doesn't think that he can do it. And in this moment, he stands up among the baggage, and the people get a look at what Saul looks like, and they're amazed. Verse 23 describes him like this. And when he stood among the people, he was taller than any of the people from his shoulders upward. And Samuel said to all the people, do you see him whom the Lord has chosen? There is none like him among all the people. And all the people shouted, long live the king. Saul stands up, and he's this incredible physical specimen. He looks like the obvious choice to be king. He looks like the guy that would be the starting quarterback for the team. He looks like the guy that you pick first when you're choosing up sides. He's bigger, stronger, faster than everyone else in the country. And so immediately the crowd is won over. Once they see that this is the guy who's going to be their king, they go, yes, this is exactly what we wanted out of our king. We want someone who we can be proud when we look and we see who's sitting on the throne. But Saul's scared. He's intimidated because he doesn't know that if he can live up to this pressure. He doesn't know if he can do it. And over we're going to see that this insecurity plagues Saul. He doesn't know if he's good enough. And the sad truth is he's not. He's not God. He's going to fall short over and over and over again. And it's this reliance on himself, on his own abilities, on his own skill, on his own ability to be the biggest and strongest and fastest. This is what is going to ultimately lead to his failure. When he doesn't depend on God, he just depends on himself. He depends on the fact that he's bigger. He depends on the fact that he's the obvious choice to be king. He has to do it. This is going to set him up for failure. And there's a very famous story coming up that you have heard of David and Goliath. This is a moment where Saul is no longer the biggest, the strongest, and the fastest, and he gets exposed for the imposter that he is sitting on the throne. And so this lesson for us today is not to look to the one that looks like the obvious choice. Not to look to the leaders who look the part, but don't have the right heart, don't have the right relationship with God. It doesn't matter if you look like you should be the one in charge. It doesn't matter if you're the biggest, the strongest, the fastest. It doesn't matter if you're the one that everyone would choose first if they were choosing up sides. If you don't have that dependence on God, you're not going to get far. For us on the other side, it's so freeing. We don't have to be reliant on our own ability. Most of us are not the biggest or the strongest or the fastest. Most of us are not the obvious choice. And yet we don't have to be. Because even those who are can't measure up to God's standard. But the ones who learn to trust God, the ones who learn to rely on Him completely, the ones that prioritize their relationship with Him above their own ability, those are the people that God really uses. And we're about to be introduced to a character in just a couple chapters who perfectly embodies this dynamic when we meet David, the real star of 1st and 2nd Samuel. We are called to be like that, like David, who's a foreshadowing of Jesus, where we're dependent on God. We're relying on Him, not because we think we can do it in our own power, not because anyone would choose us, but because we know that we can be vessels for God.